Are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck? Do you want to finally take control of your finances and start saving money? Well, look no further. In this video, we'll be sharing the ultimate guide to budgeting and saving money. From easy to follow tips and tricks to practical advice, will help you create a budget, stick to it, and achieve your financial goals. So whether you're saving for a rainy day or planning for your future, get ready to transform your financial future with our comprehensive guide to budgeting and saving money. Firstly, let's talk about why budgeting is so important. If you're like me, you probably hate the idea of tracking every penny you spend. But trust me, budgeting is one of the best things you can do for your finances. First of all, budgeting helps you control your spending. When you have a budget, you know exactly how much money you have to spend each month and where it needs to go. This makes it easier to avoid overspending and make smarter financial decisions. Budgeting can also help you reduce debt. By allocating a certain amount of money each month towards your debt repayments, you can start to chip away at those balances and eventually become debt-free. And let's not forget about building wealth. When you have a budget, you can allocate money towards savings and investments. Over time, those small contributions can add up and help you build your wealth. But the benefits of budgeting go beyond just your finances. It can also help you reduce stress. When you have a plan for your money, you don't have to worry about whether or not you can afford something. You can relax knowing that your bills are covered and your saving goals are on track. So how do you create a budget, you might be asking? Well, if you're new to budgeting, don't worry. It's easier than you think. I like to think of it as a 4-step process. Step 1 is figuring out your monthly income. This includes your take-home pay, any side hustle incomes, or any other money that you receive on a regular basis. Step 2, let's make a list of all your fixed expenses, such as rent, mortgage payments, car payments, utilities, and any other bills that stay the same from month to month. These are expenses that you know you have to pay every month, and you can budget for them accordingly. Step 3 is allocate money towards variable expenses. These include things like groceries, entertainment, and dining out. Try to estimate how much you typically spend in each category and allocate again accordingly. Step 4 is set aside money for savings and investments. This is one of the most important categories in your budget, as it helps you build wealth and achieve your long-term finance goals. Now here comes the fun part, creating your budget. Start by subtracting your expenses from your income. Ideally, you want to have some money left over at the end of the month so you can put that towards savings or other financial goals. If you're finding that you're spending more money than you're making, you might need to look for ways to cut back on your expenses. One trick right out of the gate that can help is categorize your expenses. For example, you might have a category for groceries, another for entertainment, and a category for bills. This can help you see where your money is going and where you may be able to cut back. And don't forget, it's important to review your budget regularly. Life changes, and so do our expenses. By reviewing your budget on a regular basis, you can make sure you're staying on track and adjusting your spending as needed. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I save money? We all want to save a little more cash, but it can be tough to know where to start. Don't worry, I'm going to try and give you some tips and tricks that help you reach your savings goals in no time. First up is to set saving goals. It's hard to save money if you don't know what you're saving for. Think about what you want to achieve, whether it's a down payment on the house, a vacation, or simply building up an emergency fund. Once you have a goal in mind, you'd be more motivated to save. Next is automate your savings. This is an easy way to make sure you're putting money away without even thinking about it. Set up a recurring transfer from your main account to your savings account each month. Even if it's just a small amount, it will add up over time. Now let's talk about cutting expenses. This can be tough, but it's a key part to saving money. Look for ways to reduce your monthly bills, such as canceling subscriptions you don't use or negotiating a lower rate on your cable or phone bill. You can also try using cashback apps when you shop to earn extra money. Another tip is to make savings a game. Challenge yourself to save a certain amount each week or month and see if you can beat your own record. It might sound silly, but can be a fun way to stay motivated. So you have your budget, but how do you stick to it, you may ask? Well, creating a budget is one thing, but sticking to it is a whole different challenge. But don't worry, with a few simple tips, you can stay on track and achieve your financial goals. Tip number 1 is avoid impulse purchases. One of the biggest budget killers is impulse buying. We've all been there. You go to the store from one thing and come out with a cart full of stuff that you don't really need. To avoid this, make a list before you go shopping and stick to it. And if you see something that you really want but don't need, give yourself some time to think about it before making a purchase. Tip number 2 is a meal plan. Food can be a major expense, but there are ways to save money without sacrificing taste or nutrition. Try meal planning for the week and make a grocery list based on those ingredients you need and stick to it. Tip number 3 is find free or low-cost entertainment options. Just because you're on a budget doesn't mean you can't have fun. There are plenty of free or low-cost activities to do, such as hiking, visiting a museum, or having a games night with friends. If you do want to splurge on something like a concert or a vacation, plan ahead and save up for it in advance. Tip 4 is use cash or debit card instead of credit. Credit cards can be a slippery slope when it comes to overspending. To avoid racking up unnecessary debt, try using cash or debit cards instead. This way you can only spend what you have and won't be tempted on things that you can't afford right now. Tip number 5 is to reward yourself within reason. Budgeting can be tough, so it's important to celebrate the small wins along the way. Treat yourself to something you enjoy, like a night out or a new book. But remember, moderation is key. Don't go overboard and spend all your hard-earned savings in one go. Remember, sticking to a budget takes time and practice. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, we have to watch out for some of the pitfalls that so many people wander into when budgeting. So I want to tell you about some common budgeting mistakes. Budgeting can be tough, especially if you're just starting out, but by being aware of the common mistakes, you can make sure you're on the right track to achieving your financial goals. Mistake number 1 is underestimating expenses. It's easy to forget about certain expenses when creating a budget. For example, you might forget to include car maintenance, medical bills, or annual subscriptions. To avoid this, make sure you do your research and estimate your expenses as accurately as possible. And if you're not sure about something, it's always better to overestimate than underestimate. Mistake number 2 is not tracking spending. It's one thing to create a budget, but it's another thing to stick to it. And to do that, you need to track your spending, whether it's through an app, a spreadsheet, or just good old-fashioned pen and paper. Make sure you're keeping track of where your money is going. This way you can adjust your budget if needed and make sure you're staying on track. Mistake number 3 is overspending in certain categories. We all have those categories where we tend to overspend, whether it's food, clothes, or entertainment. But if you're consistently overspending in a certain area, it can throw the whole budget off balance. To avoid this, try setting a limit for yourself in those categories. For example, if you tend to overspend on eating out, try limiting yourself to only eating out once a week. Mistake number 4 is forgetting to plan for the unexpected. Life is unpredictable and unexpected expenses can pop up at any time. That's why it's important to have an emergency fund and plan for the unexpected in your budget. Try setting aside a certain amount of money each month for unexpected expenses, such as car repairs or medical bills. And mistake number 5 is comparing yourself to others. Finally, one of the biggest mistakes people make is comparing themselves to others. It's easy to see someone on social media with a fancy car or designer clothes and feel like you're not doing enough. But the truth is, everyone's financial situation is different. Focus on your own goals and what's important to you. And don't worry about what others are doing. By avoiding these common budgeting mistakes, you'll be well on your way to achieving financial success. Finally, I want to talk about some tools and resources that can help you budget more effectively. Budgeting can be tough, but with these tools, it can be a lot easier to keep track of your money. Now, one of the best tools for budgeting is budgeting apps. There are a ton of different apps out there, but some of the most popular ones include Mint, YNAB, and Pocket Guard. These apps allow you to connect your bank accounts and credit cards, track your spending, and create a budget all in one place. Plus, many of them offer helpful features like bill reminders and alerts if you're overspending in a certain category. Another great resource for budgeting is financial calculators. These can help you calculate things like how much you need to save for retirement, how much you can afford to spend on a new car, or how long it will take to pay off your credit card debt. Some popular financial calculators include Bankrate, NerdWallet, and smart asset. And if you're looking for free online resources, there are plenty of those as well. Websites like Investopedia and The Balance offer tons of helpful articles and guides on budgeting, saving money, and investing. You can also find budgeting templates and spreadsheets on sites like Google Sheets and Tiller Money. Overall, these tools and resources can be a game changer when it comes to budgeting, whether you prefer to use an app, a calculator, or just good old-fashioned pen and paper. There's something out there for everyone. So give them a try and see how they can help you achieve your financial goals.